Welcome to the Late Jurassic. I'm Daniel Carter. It is between 55 and 145 million years ago. Today, this is Wyoming, deep in the Morrison Formation. A herd of Stegosaurus stenops moves across land shared with some of the largest animals to ever walk the earth. One animal stands out, a large adult female, broad and imposing, but she is not unchanged. Months ago, her rightmost tail spike fractured. It healed, but not without cost. Resources are harder to find. Growing juveniles cluster close. The group needs stable leadership to survive. Her goal? Keep the herd together, feed, and shield the young. The risk? One wrong move, and predators are never far behind. The matriarch leads at a steady, patient pace. Her step is measured. Hardened feet tamp dry soil as the herd searches for patches of lush fern and low shrubs. She carries herself a bit more cautiously than before, not swinging her tail as wide when a juvenile strays behind. Even at rest, her posture signals experience, neck arched low, flanks tense. Elsewhere, giants dominate the scene. Distant shapes of Apatosaurus and Diplodocus cross their wide pathways, trampling almost everything in their reach. Camarasaurus move in slow, deliberate lines. The Stegosaurus herd keeps its distance. While there is no sign of panic, every member remains alert. The youngest move within the adult's shadow, only venturing out to grab a quick mouthful of horsetail or tender frond. The matriarch pauses, lifting her head. Her small eyes scan the open ground. It is a subtle signal. The other adults stop, their heads low. A faint vibration travels through the earth, heavy footsteps, far away but growing. Two Allosaurus appear beyond a low stony rise, picking through the landscape in search of a careless moment of weakness. This is the most familiar threat faced by Stegosaurus. The tail, bristling with four stout spikes, is evolved for force and precision. Still, with her old injury, the matriarch's range of motion is slightly reduced on one side. When the threat is distant, her behavior is conservative. She steps to the outside of the herd, but the tail remains close to her body, not swinging outward unless necessary. The others echo her caution. No one breaks formation. The Allosaurus linger at a respectful distance. They recognize the risk facing adults with that many spikes, especially one still standing firm and watchful. Unable to find an obvious vulnerability, the predators turn their attention toward a trailing group of smaller sauropods. The tension lifts, but the herd does not immediately resume feeding. Safety routines dominate. Two younger adults edge toward the rear, heads swinging left and right. The juveniles press closer, sensing the change in the adult's mood. The search for food resumes once the threat has passed. The herd moves to an area where scattered horsetail and cycads emerge between stones. The ground is uneven, cut with shallow dips and mounds spermed by ancient flooding. The matriarch navigates carefully, feeling for stable ground. Her right hind limb is solid, but the tail's protective reach on that side is limited. For her, each feeding spot is now assessed for its escape routes and defensive options. A hungry juvenile, growing faster than the others, moves farther from the group to reach a patch the adults have missed. The matriarch leans toward the straggler, tail swinging with more delicacy. The young one hesitates but quickly returns, learning a quiet lesson in caution. Her subtle movements reinforce boundaries and expectations, shaping group behavior without drama. Another challenge. Space is shrinking as two massive sauropods approach, their necks weaving through patches of fern. Their shadow falls over the feeding area. The ground vibrates beneath their steps as they munch on higher foliage, indifferent to the actions below. For the Stegosaurus, this is a constant hazard. Adult sauropods rarely threaten directly, but their sheer size can crowd out smaller herbivores and destroy valuable browse in moments. The matriarch considers the situation. Her body angles away from the approaching giants, encouraging her family to move as a unit. A younger adult, perhaps a recent offspring, hesitates, eyeing a green tangle of horsetail. As the sauropods press closer, the matriarch circles slowly behind, nudging and guiding the laggard forward. Her movements are precise, wasting no energy. She draws the spike-marked tail close, a careful negotiation with her injury and her leadership role. Soon, Dust begins to rise, and heat shimmers in the distance, making it harder to judge distances. The herd bunches as the sightlines shorten. In moments like these, experience matters. The matriarch chooses a new feeding site near the edge of a dry wash, where tall stones provide some cover. One juvenile tests the bank but withdraws, uncertain of the footing. Even injured, the matriarch demonstrates stability. She eases down the gentle slope, resting her weight back on the stronger side, and the others follow. At midday, environmental pressures begin to compound. The number of available feeding patches drops. Competition increases. Another Stegosaurus group, 5 in number, approaches from the south. Their leader, a large adult lacking plate damage, moves with confidence. Distance between groups narrows to less than 10 body lengths. A tense negotiation unfolds. Both matriarchs stand at the front. Tails are held level, spikes angled outward but not raised in threat. Plate displays flicker as the two groups size each other up. The matriarch with the fractured spike does not seek a direct confrontation. Instead, she holds her ground and lets her herd shelter behind her, using body mass and steady presence to deter closer approach. The rival leader sidesteps, studying the composition of the group. Deciding the costs of conflict outweigh the potential benefits, she signals a turn. The smaller group veers left, seeking less crowded ground. Not every problem has an obvious solution. Success in these encounters depends not just on strength, but also on judicious use of energy. For a large herbivore, every unnecessary struggle is a liability. Too much effort spent on competition means less time to feed, more risk of exhaustion, and greater exposure to lurking predators. The day moves forward, and resources run thin. Leafy ferns are quickly cropped near ground level. The herd must now cross an open gap in cover to reach the patchier green beyond a line of scattered boulders. It is a short distance, but brings a new risk: visibility. With less cover, Allosaurus or other opportunistic hunters may observe the herd more easily. The matriarch senses the vulnerability. She arranges the group into a compact mass, positioning herself at the rear where her defensive weapon, the thagomizer, can best guard against a sudden rush. Tail lifted but not swinging, she waits for the herd to move first. Reluctantly, one juvenile lingers, distracted by a shiny stone. The matriarch lets out a low, resonant call. The young one hears, looks up, and scurries back to safety. The crossing begins. The herd moves in tight formation, adult flanks aligned, young ones in the center. Heads are held low, but eyes scan the surroundings. The matriarch, though encumbered by her partially healed spike, moves at a controlled pace. Her body language deters any approach from behind. No predator materializes this time. The herd reaches the next patch of cycads and horsetails without incident. The newcomers feed with a sense of relief, but their movements slow as they consume their fill. For the matriarch, the partial stiffness in her tail is reminder enough. Survival is a series of careful calculations, not guaranteed outcomes. Afternoon brings another complication. A broken branch snaps under the feet of a juvenile, startling the group. Instantly, adults bristle and tails rise. The matriarch reacts, swinging her tail with defensive intent. The damaged spike holds firm, but the arc of motion is subtle, not broad. The threat, a lizard darting from cover, proves harmless. The herd's alarm fades, but the energy spent, even briefly, takes a toll on the older female. Later, the herd approaches a low, narrow channel, dry now but damp at its edges. Here, plants are slightly greener, but access is tricky. The matriarch leads by example, testing the muddy bank with cautious steps. Her heavier mass, carried slightly off the side of her injury, prevents her from becoming stuck. The flow of the herd depends on her ability to move first. One slip could cause a scramble and expose the group to danger, but she manages each step with practiced care. In between challenges, small victories shape the rhythm of the day. Several times, juveniles squabble over access to the freshest ferns. The matriarch intervenes by simple approach, her size enough to end disputes. She does not waste movement. In cooler hours, she rests briefly, trunk low, tail coiled defensively. Sleep is never deep or long. Vigilance never truly stops. As evening approaches, another Stegosaurus, a wandering subadult, appears at the edge of the group's range. This newcomer is cautious, uncertain, and keeps its distance. The matriarch allows approach but blocks direct entry with her bulk. It will take days of patient interaction before trust, if any, is allowed. The real turning point arrives as the shadows lengthen. The herd, focused on feeding, fails to notice movement across the open flats, a trio of Allosaurus, older juveniles now acting independently. Unlike the earlier adults, these hunters are less cautious, willing to take risks in pursuit of a meal. They split up, testing the herd's reaction. The matriarch senses their approach. Experience tells her the danger is greater when confronted by multiple fast-moving predators. She calls out, a deep-throated note, and places herself between the attackers and the juveniles. Other adults congeal into a defensive semicircle. The matriarch swings her tail, the injury a limiting factor, but her display is solid, authoritative. She does not advance recklessly. Instead, she presents an unbroken wall of spikes and plates. The Allosaurus test the herd's resolve with a quick dart forward, probing for weakness. But the formation holds. The matriarch's damaged spike does not deter her. Defensive posture is enough. The young predators hesitate, unwilling to risk injury, and after a tense moment, they melt back into the distance. With the immediate threat past, the herd exhales. Several juveniles are visibly restless, edging toward the adults. The matriarch's leadership holds the group together during these stressful moments. She surveys the area, tail held close as tension fades. The risk was real, but unity and clear signals have made a difference. Later, as the light fades and temperatures drop, the herd arranges itself for the night. Adults sleep in a loose arc, facing outward, with tails angled to guard all approaches. Juveniles cluster in the safest space, within reach of both food and protection. The matriarch's presence remains commanding. Even at rest, her injured tail is a deterrent, spikes visible to any would-be intruder. The cycle will repeat tomorrow. Food must be found. Threats lurk at every turn. Limited mobility on one side is a challenge, but the matriarch's caution, experience, and social signals shape the group's survival arc. Her injury is neither hidden nor defining. It is simply fact, absorbed into the strategies needed to weather an unpredictable world. This is the reality for Stegosaurus stenops in the late Jurassic. Anatomy, experience, and ecological pressure decide who leads and who survives in a world that never truly rests. Thank you for joining me, Daniel Carter, for this journey into the deep past, where a matriarch's endurance shapes every footstep and every decision tips the balance between risk and survival.